but also dealt with a lot of other issues, and that was looking at bee entrances. How many of you have one of these in your hives? Okay, good. You have an entrance reducer. And it's very interesting. My advisor said, or my advisor's wife said, well, whenever I have a wasp problem, I go and I get the smallest entrance possible. Okay, and that tries to make it so the bees can defend themselves bigger. And the idea was bigger entrances are harder to defend, but they let bees in and out faster, and it has a little more ventilation. The smaller entrances make it so the bees can defend themselves better. But they don't really like these tiny entrances. And I have a picture, and if you look closely, you can see where the bees have started to eat away this entrance. They really don't like the tiny entrances. And so I wanted to answer the question, well, what is the optimal entrance? This obviously has a lot of math done to figure out what the size is. And the beekeepers ourselves do a really great job of like, oh, I probably should have put on that entrance reducer. We don't spend a lot of time thinking of what is the optimum size. In India, they had a different kind of entrance reducer on some hives. It was a little bit bigger. It was actually easier. You didn't have to like pull in and try to pull it out. It kind of sat in front, which was a kind of cool design. And so I started looking at hive entrances in general. One of the main things I wanted to understand was just what size entrance is most appropriate in terms of width. So I did a really simple experiment and where I had an entrance, and I kept progressively making it smaller and smaller as on a hot day. And I looked, and I ended up having to do the bee counting of how many bees went in and out, which took a lot of time. But what I found, very interestingly, was that smaller entrances don't really stop bees from going in and out all too much. But what happens is when it gets too small, you stop having the ventilation you need. And so ventilation becomes a bigger problem than the traffic flow of bees going in and out of a beehive. And so that was a pretty cool conclusion, because it says I need to worry more about ventilation than bees going in and out. Yeah. Now, I was not particularly happy with this conclusion though, because I had worked super hard on counting bees. So I did a more interesting thing. I very quickly took the same data set and I asked the question, well, I want to find something interesting. What's interesting in my data set? And I found that bees tend to follow each other. So if you imagine there's like one door, and you have people trying to run in and out and in and out. What happens is somebody sort of barges through, and then people behind kind of follow through. And then if you want to go the other way, somebody kind of pushes through, and then the other bees in this case kind of follow through. And so there is a slight tendency in what would otherwise normally be called a geometric series that the bees kind of follow each other. So that was interesting. So I got to do some other really simple experiments, similar to this bee counting. One of them was looking at what's the appropriate entrance height. So I sort of had one like a tall entrance, small entrance, tall, small, and I ended up counting like what do bees like. It turns out very simply the taller entrances will use more, probably because bees just go to the quickest thing that they can find. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was interesting because I had a lot of bees that were exiting on the tall hives, and if I looked very carefully, they were usually crawling upside down on their way out. So when they left the hive, they sort of leave on the closest entrance. Going in, it was sort of more of a uniform distribution of which entrance they went through. So that was something interesting.
So what about screen bottom boards for ventilation, and then you can keep the entrances small?
I think that is a great idea. I did not get to do like rigorous testing on that, but I would highly recommend that, yes. Especially for India, which is not something they're doing now. It's something that I put in to say, in your standard, you should start encouraging those. I did get to have some fun making sort of automatic bee entrances. So this was a design that had a little valve that opened up and closed. I wanted to do an experiment where you could just adjust it over time, maybe have some heat sensors. Didn't get too involved with it. I did find something very cool though, and that is if you go very slowly, it's like a garage door. If it's going fast, you'll run for it. If it goes slowly, you eventually decide, you know what, I'm not going to do the limbo, I'll go around. And so the slower you went, the less likely the bees were to get crushed.
So they're not daredevils?
They're not super daredevils at a point,
Okay.
which was interesting. And then I made a more stylish design. That's a helical design that was fun to 3D print. That was more continuous. So you could imagine you have a really simple servo, and you could have something that adjusts. Oh, it's hot right now, I'm going to open up. Oh, it's cold, I'll sort of close back down. You can have a little microphone that says, oh, I hear wasps. adjust for the time of day and things. So it was cute, it was interesting. It was a little bit out of the price point for India. Part of the thought was, in addition, you have a lot of commercial beekeepers that might need to close up all their hives when there's a pesticide application.
Right.
Okay, so we spend a lot of money on hives, often just for fun, but even for commercial beekeepers, if you had a system where you press a button, all your hives close, you can cut the grass maybe not, it would be interesting. For India, I was thinking, well, wouldn't it be a little more appropriate just to say, go buy your hives, open and close them. And so I actually, it was a very simple design. This was a wedge design. It would slide in the front, be a little bit more robust. There are things that have a very strict tolerance. It either doesn't fit or it slides in and out very easily. So it's a little bit nicer, easier to make. But one of the issues with it was I tried to do an experiment with beekeepers, and I said, you know, hey, could you do this experiment where during the day, if it's hot, you open up more, if it's cold, you close them? They said, well, we really can't do that. I said, why is that? And the reason why was because they would often have to migrate their bees to different areas, and they might live 2 or more hours away from where their hives were actually staying at any point in time. And because of that, they couldn't easily get to their hives to make little adjustments. That just wasn't something that was possible. Now I did go and say, well, what if the bees could do that? So I made some little designs. These are very cute, where bees would open and shut doors. Bees are not very smart, unfortunately. As much as I'd love them to be, collectively they can be very interesting, but individually they're not very smart. Bumblebees, though, this was inspired by bumblebees, that there's a special entrance for bumblebees where they can lift flaps. You can watch YouTube videos on it, and it helps to stop wax moths from getting into bumblebee hives. But it didn't really work for little bees. They're not very strong, unfortunately. They're not as strong as bumblebees, and I'm not sure that they were quite as bright. But I did get to make some other cool entrances. One of them I call a hex reducer. It's very interesting because there's not just like 2 entrances, but 3, or actually 4 if you take it out fully. And so you actually, instead of just having 2 very discrete sizes, you get an actual 3rd in between, which is kind of cool. And it looks pretty awesome. And because I had to print a mouse sort of blocker in the shape of honeycomb. Every beekeeper I saw loved these too. So they're in the public domain. If you want to make them, I will even buy them from you because they're pretty cool.
Did it work though? Did the honeycomb mouse reducer work?
Sure, the bees loved it. They were going in and out all the time. Yeah.
Very cool.
Now, my favorite, well, the best experiment I did with entrances actually got inspired from talking to an Indian beekeeper. And I went up and I asked him, I was asking a lot of beekeepers, I asked this one guy, how do you determine the size of your entrance? And he said, well, what I do is I take some paper, I crumple it up, and I shove it in the front of the entrance, and they eat away the entrance until they find what size they want.
Ooh.
It's a very good idea. Right? I would encourage you, if you're curious, you know, open up, if you have a small hive, get it a little bit bigger, crumple up some paper, see what they eat out. And so I said, well, that sounds like a wonderful experiment that I can do while I'm in India. So I taped graph paper from my notebook onto the front of a hive, and I measured what do they eat in just 24 hours or so, in one day. And so we had a very small Indian hive there's all just one box for the most part, but this only had a few frames. It didn't eat out almost anything. A medium-sized one that had like 6 to 8 frames, but not really filled, ate out just a little bit. A beaming one box that really should have been super though, ate out their entire front entrance. And they can't eat out anymore because it's wood. They have a fixed size entrance, and it really should have been bigger. And so one of the cool conclusions was, well, if you want to have bigger hives that get more honey, you need to have bigger front entrances because your bees obviously want it. For a US for comparison, this was a 3 medium hive. They ate out most of the entrance in just one day. And then for a large 3 deep hive, they ate out the entire thing. They probably would have loved a lot more. They would have loved screen bottom board. That would have been excellent. But it was something that was very interesting to see, very quantitative and very actionable, saying, hey, hive manufacturers, you should make the hive entrances bigger for Indian hives. That was a cool